2 days before the wedding, my eyesight returned. I rushed to my fiancé's house, eager to tell him the good news. Looking at the two figures intertwined before me, I froze. In an instant, tears streamed down my face. I leaned against the wall outside the door, listening to the entire exchange as if torturing myself. The two engaged in passionate acts inside were my fiancé, Marcus, and my cousin, Tiffany. Marcus and I were childhood sweethearts. We went to school and came home together every day, camped on weekends, and traveled abroad during holidays. When we graduated from college, Marcus promised my family he would treat me well for life. I've loved Grace for a long time, she's been by my side all these years. I hope we can spend the rest of our lives together. Family and friends all approved. Later, during a family trip, we were in a car accident. My parents died in the crash, and I had a brain hemorrhage that affected my vision, leaving me almost blind. Marcus didn't abandon me. Instead, he brought me to his side and took meticulous care of me. To outsiders, he said I was his soon-to-be wife, personally ensuring my 3 meals a day and monthly checkups. To me, he'd say, "Grace, don't be afraid. I'll always take care of you." We were meant to get married anyway. But while I was unable to see, he was having a clandestine affair with my cousin. I don't know how long I cried before my tears finally stopped. I sank onto the sofa in Marcus's living room. Reaching for a photo of Marcus and me on the coffee table, I accidentally knocked over a glass, which crashed to the floor, making a loud noise. "What happened?" Marcus's voice came from behind me, tinged with a satisfied contentment. He knelt before me, scrutinizing my face. "We're getting married in a few days. Why are your eyes so swollen from crying?" I looked up, and Marcus's handsome, refined face came into view. Looking lower, his shirt was open, and there were suggestive red marks on his chest and neck. Oh. Of course, since I couldn't see, he didn't even bother to straighten himself up. Our eyes met, and remembering the scene from the bedroom, tears flowed uncontrollably. He sighed with concern, pulling me into his arms to comfort me. "Grace, are you having pre-wedding jitters? Don't worry." I caught the suggestive scent on him and felt a wave of nausea, forcefully pushing him away. Marcus didn't have time to react, falling backward into a soft, fragrant embrace. My cousin, Tiffany, was wearing my pajamas, her robe wide open, revealing bare skin. Tiffany hugged him from behind, resting her chin on Marcus's shoulder, looking at me provocatively. Tiffany tightened her arms around him, pressing Marcus's back firmly against hers. Marcus stiffened, nervously glancing at me. Remembering I couldn't see, he let out a sigh of relief. He turned and put his arm around Tiffany, heading upstairs. "Grace, I have some business to attend to. If you're tired, go to bed first." Completely disregarding my presence, they were already being intimate as they walked arm in arm up the stairs. My fiancé, my own cousin, they had deceived me to this extent. I passed the guest room, where the two of them were deeply intimate. "Marcus, how do I compare to Grace?" Marcus grunted, "How could you possibly compare to Grace?" Tiffany's voice was a bit urgent. "Marcus, let's switch our arranged marriage partner to me. My family's influence isn't weak either. Besides, we're so compatible." Marcus's chilling voice came, "Behave yourself and maintain the status quo. I won't mistreat you." Grace's family and Tiffany's family were both second-tier clans, with similar status and power. The family was a first-tier clan, even though Marcus was only a distant relative. Both Grace's family and Tiffany's family were eager to curry favor with him. The day before the wedding, according to Grace's family tradition, the bride needed to visit the family chapel for ancestral worship. Marcus accompanied me. Marcus and I sat in the back, and Tiffany came along. Tiffany was originally in the passenger seat, but when Marcus wasn't looking, she suddenly sat on his lap and hugged him. The driver dared not look back, nor let his gaze wander. I wore sunglasses and looked out the car window. Firstly, my eyes had just recovered and were sensitive to bright light. Secondly, I feared my gaze would betray me when facing that pair of despicable individuals. Marcus held my hand with one hand and stroked Tiffany with the other. Tiffany was so aroused she couldn't stop panting. I turned back, feigning confusion. Marcus's body stiffened for a moment. "Grace, can you see?" Tiffany turned to look at me, a flash of murderous intent in her seductive eyes. I suppressed the urge to vomit, feigned discomfort with my sunglasses, took them off, and wiped away my tears. Marcus hastily pulled out a tissue, noticed a sticky residue on his hand, and switched to the other hand to wipe my tears. I pursed my lips, swatted his hand away, and rolled the car window down all the way. "What's that terrible smell? It's utterly foul." Marcus looked aggrieved, withdrawing his hand resentfully. Marcus's attempts to curry favor angered Tiffany. As soon as we arrived at the family chapel, Tiffany shook Marcus off and got out of the car. I'm going to look around. I won't stay here and be an eyesore for Grace and Marcus, especially since Grace is getting married tomorrow. Marcus glared at Tiffany, then looked out, signaling the driver to follow me. Grace, I'm going to have a cigarette. I'll have Kevin follow you. After he walked away, I told Kevin to wait in the car and, alone, entered the family chapel with my white cane. Ever since discovering Marcus and Tiffany's scandalous affair yesterday, I had decided I wouldn't marry him. My father was far away in Riverton and couldn't make it to my wedding banquet until tomorrow night at the earliest. Time was critical, so I contacted Ethan, the younger relative of my father's old friend in Sterling City, to discuss the steps for my escape tomorrow, right there in the family chapel. I walked around to the back of the family chapel, where a man stood with his hands clasped behind his back. Excuse me, are you Ethan, Mr. Ethan? The man turned, his gold-rimmed glasses reflecting a calm, serene gaze. He neither denied nor confirmed. A calming woody scent wafted towards me. I'm Grace. I assume my father has already told you about my situation? Tomorrow, there will be a wedding at Evergreen Estate. I'd like you to help me escape from it. Silence stretched for a long time, the man's intense gaze making me uncomfortable. Just as I thought he would refuse. The man's thin lips parted, a faint smile playing on his lips. All right, no problem, Ms. Grace. Fearing and his group would notice something amiss if they entered the family chapel, I thanked Ethan and returned. Alone in the family chapel, performing the full ancestral worship ritual, my vision felt much clearer. Grace, you're a perfumer, your nose must be very sensitive, right? Did you already realize that Marcus had my scent on him? Since you know everything, why don't you just give Marcus to me? I stood up and placed the last stick of incense into the altar. You know Marcus and I are childhood sweethearts, why did you interfere? I just can't stand how you get everything without fighting for it. Childhood sweethearts? If he truly loved you, he wouldn't have slept with me. Besides, you're blind now, Grace. How can a blind woman be worthy of marrying into the Miller family and becoming the matriarch? Marcus has been taking me to all sorts of parties these past few months. Tomorrow, you'll have to give him up, whether you want to or not. Tiffany also lit a stick of incense, casually bowed, and forcefully plunged it into the spot where my previous incense had been. Why bother with rituals? It's just a show. Tiffany then walked out and playfully bumped into Marcus's arms. Acting coy, I picked up the fallen incense sticks and reinserted them. I remembered my cousin from when our two families first arrived in Sterling City, the sweet, cute girl who always clung to me. Now, she was barely recognizable from that memory. Since it's come to this, let's just rip off the facade. On the wedding day, I was pulled out of bed early to get ready. The makeup artist chuckled, "You look truly beautiful after your makeover, miss." But then she saw Tiffany, already dressed in a wedding gown and fully made up, sitting in the living room. The makeup artist gave an awkward laugh and fell silent. Taking a gig and running into secrets of the elite. Tiffany admired her freshly done nails, smiling defiantly. Grace, why are you still getting ready? You won't be leaving the house today anyway. Servants clustered around Tiffany, escorting her into the car bound for the wedding venue. Aunt and uncle looked troubled, offered a few words of comfort, then followed them to the wedding venue. Fine by me. When the embarrassment unfolds, the whole family will be there to witness it. I changed out of my wedding dress and waited outside. 2 luxury cars were parked on the main road outside the gate. A middle-aged man standing by the car handed me a cell phone with both hands. Ms. Grace, my master has something to say to you. I took the cell phone, and on the video call was the man from under the tree at the family chapel that day. The man was dressed in a sharp suit, with defined brows and bright eyes, looking even more handsome than that day. I can help you escape your wedding. You have 2 paths to choose from. Leave directly, move far away from Sterling City. Choose the Lincoln. I need a wife. Marry me, and we'll get revenge on them. Choose the Bentley. I slowly spoke, I won't bring a dowry. And what about your bride price? The man laughed heartily after hearing this. Aura Incorporated is yours, and a villa in Bayview will also be registered under your name. Duh. I hung up the phone and confidently got into the Bentley. In the car, I watched the live broadcast of Marcus's wedding on my cell phone. The white suit made Marcus, the young master, look exceptionally refined. He stood at the end of the aisle, waiting for the bride. The bride slowly walked to his side, her veil thick, preventing Marcus from clearly seeing her face. The pastor announced, "Groom, you may kiss the bride." Marcus lifted the veil, as if struck by lightning. "How could it be you?" Tiffany's seductive face was flushed. Grace refused to come, so I did. Guests whispered amongst themselves, "How is this bride different from the one in the video?" The screen, which was supposed to show a video of the bride and groom's journey together over the years, switched to a 9-panel grid. Each panel displayed a scandalous video. The stars of the scandalous videos were none other than today's bride and groom. Their explicit conversations during their clandestine affair scrolled continuously as subtitles below the films. My goodness, today's bride is the original bride's cousin. The original bride was supposedly blind. This deceptive switch is truly vicious, isn't it? Exactly. If he didn't want to marry the original bride, he should have just called off the engagement. This groom is too greedy. They're both such bullies. Reporters observing the ceremony snapped photos furiously. This elite wedding became a trending topic from an entirely different angle. The new couple on stage turned beet red, then ashen. Marcus abruptly pushed aside a bewildered Tiffany, shouting, "Someone, turn off those videos. Go find Grace for me. I'll deal with you later." I closed my cell phone, feeling satisfied, and realized the car had stopped in front of the largest church in Central Park District. The driver had already opened the door and was waiting, gesturing for me to walk into the church. Ethan stood quietly before the church altar, dressed in a sharp black suit. Hearing my footsteps, he turned and smiled at me. His smile was like the brilliant summer sun. Ethan took my hand, pulled me into his embrace, and listened as the pastor read the vows. Ethan seemed genuinely like a groom finally marrying the girl he loved, his eyes brimming with affection, making me feel self-conscious. I shyly lowered my head, and Ethan placed a blue diamond ring on my ring finger. I widened my eyes. A men's blue diamond ring lay in my palm, its diamond small yet exquisite. These rings must be worth millions. Is really that wealthy? Ethan cleared his throat a few times. I put the men's ring on him as well. The pastor delivered the usual closing blessing. "Now, the groom may kiss the bride." Ethan pulled me into his arms. At first, it was just a few light pecks, followed by a deep, passionate kiss. It was as if two lovers, deeply enamored, had finally found their destiny. When we moved to the garden area behind the church to rest, I was still in a daze. Ethan stayed by my side, smiling as he greeted two uniformed personnel waiting in the garden. One of them respectfully handed over 2 red booklets. "Mr. Ethan, the marriage certificates are ready. Please have a look." "You actually brought the registrar's office here?" "Hey, let me see the marriage certificate, don't put it away yet." I didn't expect to get our marriage certificates so quickly. I thought it would take a couple of days. The marriage certificate showed the man's name as Ethan. The Ethan from the Ethan family, the new patriarch who rose to power through ruthless, decisive means? "You're the legendary Ethan?" Ethan raised an eyebrow. "Then who did you think I was?" I flushed. "I thought you were he." Ethan brought my hand to his lips. "It's fine, we both have the same last name, he. How could it be fine? If it were just he, my dad's old friend's son, it would be easier if I wanted a divorce later. But now it was Ethan, Ethan the ghost, Ethan whose thoughts were as deep as the ocean. I felt like surviving 3 months by his side would be a miracle. Ethan handed me a stack of documents. "These are the bride price items you requested. They were handled a bit hastily. The property is already in your name, and the company's legal representative change will take a few more days." Right, I even asked Ethan for a bride price. Now I'm wondering if I'll even survive a month. Feeling the car start moving, I finally remembered to ask, "Where are we going now?" Ethan said meaningfully, "To our wedding home. After all, tonight is our wedding night." I want to go back to my old villa to pack my things. And find a chance to escape. "No need, Alfred will handle it. Besides, you wouldn't want to run into your ex-fiancé and your cousin's family, would you?" You're right. Staying with Ethan means a delayed demise. Running into my enemies means an immediate one. I obediently leaned back against the seat, following his arrangements. They drove into the Bayview Villa district, all the way to the innermost part, stopping at a place that could only be described as an estate. There were no other villas visible nearby. A private circular road separated it from the ordinary villas up ahead. I stared, dumbfounded. "Your house, it's so huge." Ethan smiled. "Now this place is yours." It took me a moment to realize, this is one of the bride price items you mentioned this morning? "Mr. Ethan, are you alright? Who marries someone they've only met once on the spot? Even if it's not a scam, no one would offer such a valuable bride price. What do you want from me?" My eyes just recovered. "Is everything I'm seeing an illusion?" Ethan laughed heartily. "It's not an illusion, and we haven't only met once. I'll tell you all about it later. However, When I saw you again under the tree yesterday, I originally just wanted to help a junior out. I never expected it to be you. Let's not talk about that for now. I'll have the housekeeper show you around. The housekeeper drove a golf cart and stopped in front of me. I rubbed my forehead. I'd rather not explore right now. I'm tired. Please take me to rest first. Marcus stormed back to the villa and saw an unfamiliar middle-aged man directing servants to move things. Marcus stopped the man and demanded, "Who are you? Why are you moving things in my house? How did the security let you in?" Alfred stepped back. "I am Ms. Grace's newly hired housekeeper. Ms. Grace plans to move and asked me to pack her personal belongings." "Oh, and Ms. Grace asked you to move out by today. After all, you are no longer engaged, so it's inappropriate for you to continue living here." I want to talk to Grace. She's not answering my cell phone." "Ms. Grace not answering your calls already makes her stance clear. Mr. Taylor, please don't make a fool of yourself. Please leave." Marcus's face flushed red, but he couldn't refute a single word. He gritted his teeth, had his luggage moved, and, with a dark expression, ignored Tiffany, who was still lingering nearby. Tiffany didn't dare speak up, so she just left with Marcus. After got in the car, he locked the doors. "Stop following me. Don't think that just because you orchestrated things at the wedding, I'll marry you. You've been involved with so many people in our circle, and you still expect me to marry you? You're delusional." Tiffany's face was streaked with tears. She stood there, holding her wedding dress, not daring to chase after him, and watched furiously as Marcus drove away. I slept until evening. When I went downstairs to the dining room, I found Ethan sitting at the head of the table, eating while working on his laptop. I sat down. "Mr. Ethan, are you that busy?" Ethan closed his laptop and had someone serve the dishes. "Mainly waiting for you. And there's no need for such formality in your address." The table was filled with all my favorite dishes, including hearty soup. I happily began to eat. "Thank you, these are all my favorite dish." "Yes. You're so good to me. And what about you? Of all these dishes on the table, do you know which ones I like?" I hesitated for a moment, then used the serving tongs to pick up a slice of beef for him. Ethan smiled as he ate it. "What, afraid I'm not strong enough?" Yes, I hope you're as strong as an ox." Seeing his sly chuckle, I realized he was making suggestive jokes. Annoying. After dinner, Ethan and I returned to the room. Seeing me walking stiffly, with my arms and legs moving together, he said, "Mrs. Ethan, relax first. I'm going to take a shower." My face was beet red. I'd read plenty of spicy romance stories, but now it was my turn to be intimate so quickly with someone I'd only known for a few days. When he came out of the bathroom, I also wanted to shower. Ethan smiled and hugged me. "No rush, you'll be washing again later anyway." The curtains were half open, and faint light struggled in from outside, casting long, dim shadows on the floor. Ethan's sharp features softened. The air was filled with a faint, sweet scent, like a blend of rose and cedarwood. A long while later, Ethan breathed heavily in my ear. "Was I strong enough just now? Want another round?" I turned my head away, not wanting to look at him, and finally whispered, "Hum." A long time later, Ethan contentedly got up and pulled me off the bed. I pushed him away with both hands. "No more, I want to shower." Ethan was still smiling. He picked me up by the waist and carried me to the bathroom. My head was buried in the crook of his neck, my face flushed crimson, not daring to look up at him. The bed sheets were slightly disheveled, as if having just witnessed a tender, intimate embrace. Marcus returned to the miller. Mrs. Eleanor greeted him, peering behind him. "Well, has Grace calmed down? Didn't she come back with you?" "No. Grace went off somewhere, and she kicked me out of Grace's family." Mrs. Eleanor anxiously said, "Then what are we going to do? She couldn't have discovered an you thing, could she? Oh, it's all your fault. Why did you have that affair with her cousin in her house? You lived in that villa for so long, didn't you know there were cameras?" Marcus wore an impatient expression. "How was I supposed to know a blind woman would install surveillance cameras?" Mr. Williams stopped their bickering. "All right, what's done is done. If won't come back, Marcus, then just get your marriage certificate with that woman. The stock inheritance is conditional on your marriage anyway. It doesn't matter who you marry. As for Grace Incorporated, only that orphaned girl remains. Tiffany's father also has shares in Grace Incorporated, we'll see how to acquire them then." The next day, the 3 members of the Miller family went to Tiffany's family for a formal proposal. Although the couple had already had a wedding, yesterday's ceremony was held under Grace's name. Tiffany was still angry about what Marcus said yesterday. Marcus wore a pleading expression. "Tiffany, yesterday Grace kicked me out, and I was embarrassed, so I lashed out at you in anger. Please don't be mad. I brought my parents today to formally discuss our arrangement. We'll double whatever my family promised Grace before. How does that sound? Mrs. Eleanor gave a placating smile. Yes, indeed, dear in-laws. Do you have any other requests? Let's discuss them together. Yesterday, when Marcus returned, I already gave him a stern talking to. He realizes he needs to treat Tiffany well. Tiffany decided to go with the flow. All right then, just give the betrothal gifts and such to my family first, and then we'll get our marriage certificate. Yes, of course. Mrs. Eleanor quickly glanced up and down, then pressed on. Why delay? How about tomorrow? After all, Tiffany is already 2 months pregnant. The sooner you get married, the sooner she can focus on her pregnancy. What? Tiffany's father and mother stared at her in shock. Seeing remain silent, they realized Mrs. Eleanor was telling the truth. They dared not play hard to get any longer and urged Tiffany to get her marriage certificate. Ethan and I spent a cozy week in the new villa. He wasn't working from home like on the day we got our marriage certificate. His laptop hadn't been opened for days. I guessed he liked beef, but it turned out he just had endless energy, and he was directing all of it at me. Cold and handsome in public, clingy and playful in private, he often went back on his word, especially in bed. I couldn't take it anymore. Ethan. Honey. Don't you need to check on your company work? Or are there any meetings or banquets you need to attend? Ethan, engrossed in my collection of spicy romance stories, replied dismissively, are all those highly paid executives at my company incompetent? The recent banquets are all low class, so I declined. Come, let's try this. A long time later, my consciousness gradually cleared from its daze. Honey, I just remembered you said you'd tell me why you chose to marry me. Tell me now, and let me actually rest for a bit. Ethan got up, walked naked to the safe, then turned and handed me something. Do you remember this necklace? A teardrop-shaped pink diamond necklace lay quietly on the bedsheets. Ethan scoffed. I thought the pink diamond ring at the wedding would make you remember. Apparently not. During my elementary and high school summer vacations, my parents took me on vacation to the U.S. During one of those trips, my father's good friend, uncle, also came along. While my parents and I were browsing aimlessly at the Empire Building Mall, we encountered a robbery and shooting. My parents and I got separated, and in a panic, I blindly hid in the men's restroom. I hid in the last stall of the men's restroom, trembling, my face half covered with splashed blood. Clang, the stall door was forced open, and a chubby boy, about my age, squeezed in. I looked at him and thought he looked familiar, then remembered he was the child uncle had brought along to play. Shoo, don't make a sound. I nodded in terror. Don't be scared, I saw them pass by before I hid in here. If they come back to check the restroom again later, I'll run out and distract them. You wait here for rescue. I nodded again, still terrified. Bang, the door was violently flung open. Those people had indeed come back to search. I grabbed the little boy's hand, shaking my head frantically, pleading with him not to go. The little boy's eyes were resolute. He patted my arm, pried my fingers open, and turned to rush out. The men turned and grabbed him, throwing him against the wall. The boy's painful cry pierced my mind like a knife. As the boy had predicted, after they caught him, they didn't continue checking further inside for other hostages. The robber raised his handgun, ready to shoot the boy. Why are you running? Did you think I wouldn't see you? Haha. My aim is precise, there'll be little pain. Stop. I don't know where I found the courage, but I shakily walked out of the stall, clutching the teardrop pink diamond necklace my grandmother had left me. My voice trembled. Take this necklace. The pink diamond on it is real and very valuable. Please, I beg you, let us go. The tall robber snatched the necklace, examining it repeatedly, a satisfied smile spreading across his face. Then he raised his handgun, intending to kill both of us. I closed my eyes, waiting for the final moment. Another smaller robber pulled the tall man's arm, urging, Boss, the police are already outside, and the SWAT team will be here soon. We need to go now. The robbers fled, and the chubby boy and I were temporarily out of danger. My legs gave out, and I collapsed onto the floor. As my taut nerves relaxed, I immediately fainted. By the time I woke up, I was already in the hospital. The necklace my grandmother gave me was gone. The confrontation with the robbers, the chubby boy's life-saving grace, it all felt like a dream. Ethan's cool voice broke through. After I grew up, I finally took control of Ethan. I searched for this teardrop pink diamond for a long time, and it was only 3 years ago that I learned it was an heirloom from your maternal grandmother's family. Then, I bought it back at an underground. Ethan's tone dropped. Guess who sent the necklace to auction for money? A terrible suspicion welled up in my mind. Was it the Miller family who sent it to auction? Indeed, it was the Miller family. You should remember that half a year after the robber incident, your family was in another car accident. So, the Miller family had first orchestrated the robbery, intending to kill both me and my parents. No wonder no one died in that robbery. My parents escaped early, and I was saved by Ethan. So half a year later, they orchestrated the car accident. This time, they finally succeeded. So, the Miller family. Marcus wanted to wipe out my family's inheritance? My parents were very good to him, and I'm their only daughter. The family business would be passed on to me. Why was he so ruthless? Ethan was silent for a moment. Because that pink diamond was passed down to you by your maternal grandmother. That pink diamond is one of the authentication items for your maternal family's fortune. Marcus hooked up with your cousin a long time ago. Your uncle was afraid Marcus would discover the hidden value of the pink diamond necklace, so he never told Marcus the truth. The family was short on cash, so they put the necklace up for the underground. Your uncle was a step too late. Once an item reaches the underground, it won't be returned to the consignor, it can only go through the auction process. So even my own uncle couldn't tolerate my family. My entire body curled into the blankets, but I couldn't stop trembling. Ethan wrapped his arms around me from behind, his large hand enveloping my small one. It was very warm, and very strong. So, this time, just like last time, you came to save me? Ethan rested his chin on the crook of my neck. Yes, after all, it's a life-saving debt, and I must repay with gratitude. I closed my eyes, tears flowing uncontrollably. Thank you. I must have saved the galaxy in my past life. Recently, an institution had been heavily acquiring shares of Grace Incorporated, reaching 20% of the total stock. A few days later, in the top-floor conference room of Grace Incorporated, the management team awaited the appearance of the new shareholder. Uncle owned 20% of the shares. Apart from my parents, his was the largest stake. The conference room doors swung open, and everyone was surprised to see it was Grace, the very Grace who had been publicly replaced as the bride at a wedding recently. Rumor had it that Grace was blind and particularly dependent on Marcus. Even when Marcus and Tiffany swapped brides on the spot, Grace hadn't publicly resisted. Yet, at this moment, Grace walked in, radiant and full of presence, looking nothing like someone who was blind. Uncle's thoughts shifted. Grace, you're here? Your eyes have recovered? I walked to the main executive chair and sat down, smiling. Yes, my eyes have recovered. Otherwise, how could I have witnessed so many private scandalous acts? By the way, the wedding video from that day, it was filmed very clearly, wasn't it, Uncle? A low chuckle spread among the onlookers. Uncle flushed with anger, disregarding the presence of other shareholders and executives. You released that wedding video? Tiffany is your cousin, how could you do that to her? I shrugged indifferently. When she was fooling around with my fiancé, she didn't remember I was her cousin either. I don't think she cared about the video getting out. She's doing just fine now, isn't she? Besides, didn't she get her wish and marry into the Miller family? Alright, let's stop talking about irrelevant people. I'm here today to exercise my rights as Grace Incorporated's largest shareholder. I demand the termination of all subsequent cooperation projects with the Miller. So. The largest shareholder among the minor ones, questioned, so. Grace is behind the institution that recently acquired 20% of the scattered shares? But that's only 20%, it's not a decisive stake. Yes, but if you add my parents' original 30%, that's enough. Uncle burst into laughter. My dear niece, the inheritance of your parents' shares, according to the will, required you to be married before May 30th. May 30th was your cousin's wedding. You didn't get married that day, so those shares are now mine, ha 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 ha. I exchanged a glance with Mr. Harrison. Mr. Harrison produced documents and explained, actually, Ms. Grace already obtained her marriage certificate on May 30th, so those shares have all been transferred to Ms. Grace's name. Ms. Grace is indeed currently the largest shareholder. Uncle shouted impossible, and lunged at Mr. Harrison, snatching and flipping through the documents in his hand. Mr. Harrison let him pore over them, then projected my marriage certificate onto the whiteboard. Everyone looked at the name of the other person on the marriage certificate, their faces filled with disbelief, then with dread. Ethan, the Ethan family's second young master who ultimately rose to power through dark and decisive means. Any company he controlled would quickly seize the largest market share, becoming a monopolistic leader. Grace had actually latched onto such a powerful figure. Forget using someone's authority at Grace Incorporated, she could practically walk sideways across Sterling City. I leaned back in my chair. So, does anyone have any further questions? Silence fell around us. Uncle's face was ashen. The major shareholder was originally the eldest daughter of Grace's family, and even though she was previously blind, she had now recovered and returned. The second largest shareholder was her uncle. Ultimately, this was an internal family matter. As long as it didn't affect the interests of other shareholders, it was fine. Mr. Thompson began to ask, Ms. Gr. Ace is the largest shareholder, so her decisive power is unquestionable. But why terminate all subsequent cooperation projects with the Miller? We all know that Marcus and the Miller family have a feud with you, but isn't it too hasty to halt projects due to personal grievances? I shook my head, took out the conference room tablet, and projected the documents Ethan had given me. Previously, all projects with the Miller were pushed through by director. On the surface, both companies earned money together, but Grace Incorporated was assigned all the dirty, arduous, and unprofitable work. Currently, Grace Incorporated's internal accounting for these projects shows losses. Yes, Director is indeed a shareholder of Grace Incorporated, so it seems he has no reason to exploit Grace Incorporated in this way. However, Grace Incorporated doesn't belong to the Song family after all. Director intended to secretly transfer funds to his own companies. As everyone knows, Tiffany has already married Marcus, effectively siphoning resources from Grace Incorporated to benefit the other two families. So, Director, are you still going to stop me from cleaning house? Mr. Harrison, I'll leave the rest to you. Uncle tried to rush to my side to beg for mercy but was firmly restrained by bodyguards. Grace, please let me off the hook. I'm your uncle. I sneered. Uncle? Then why did you try to brutally destroy my family multiple times? In the US, and that car accident. You know everything? I turned away from him. Don't worry, I'll send your whole family down together, you won't be lonely. The other shareholders were speechless. It seemed Uncle had brutally acted against his own sister. Greed is deadly. Mr. Harrison opened the conference room door, and the police entered, escorting Uncle away on charges of illegal appropriation and bribery. The shareholders' meeting concluded, and the other shareholders left one after another. Mr. Harrison and assistant continued to follow up on the termination of the cooperation with T. He Miller, heading to other offices to discuss. I stood by the floor-to-ceiling window, looking out. When I was a child, Uncle was still a good uncle. He would give me a piggyback ride on his shoulders. My mom often cautioned, you spoil Grace too much. Don't carry her like that, it's bad for your neck. Oh, just put her down. It's fine, sis, Grace is very light. Uncle bounced me a few times to help me sit more steadily. Hold on tight, off we go. Oh, I said hold on to my head, not pull my ear. Later, Uncle and Aunt fell in love. My maternal grandparents disapproved of Aunt's family background and were very distant towards her. Uncle and Aunt unexpectedly became pregnant before marriage. My maternal grandparents, for the sake of the child, eventually agreed. After was born, I was so happy. This sweet, adorable little baby was my sister. When was a little older, she followed me everywhere, constantly calling out sister, and clinging to me for everything. Aunt used to joke that the first word Tiffany learned was sister. But when did things change to how they are now? A pair of large hands pressed onto my shoulders, then began to massage them. What are you thinking about? I looked at our reflections in the window. Ethan's handsome face was close to mine, and we made quite a striking pair. I was thinking about living with Uncle and Tiffany when we were kids. Our families lived right next door back then, and we always played together. Remembering the fun times, I smiled. Then I cried. Choking back tears, I couldn't speak. I turned and hugged Ethan, my tears soaking a large patch of his shirt. Ethan didn't say a word, slowly tightening his arms around me. Ethan took me to the nearby mountains to clear my head. Behind the villa in the mountains was a large lake, and we pretended to be master anglers while fishing. I had little patience for fishing. I'd often just bait the hook and cast the line haphazardly. Ethan sat beside me, watching both of our fishing. Rods. Sometimes we'd catch a big fish, but more often we were just feeding the fish with our bait. After a week in the mountains, I felt much better. On the way back to the city, I remembered and asked, you're not seriously counting this mountain fishing trip as our honeymoon, are you? You haven't mentioned a honeymoon, don't you want to go? Ethan shifted his gaze from his cell phone to my face. Why wouldn't it be because I don't have time for a honeymoon? I chuckled. You're the notorious Ethan, the feared tycoon. If you want to do something, you'll make time. It's not about lacking time. Ethan put on a pouting face. Of course I want to go on a honeymoon, but I figured you'd want revenge more right now. Once you've had your revenge, we can go on our honeymoon in peace. Silence filled the car for a long time. Okay. Yes, revenge is the priority now. I vowed to deal with their entire family, and I will not go back on my word. I almost let this comfortable distraction sidetrack me from my main objective. The day after returning from the mountains, I went back to Grace Incorporated. I had just settled into my office when I heard a commotion outside. Mr. Harrison and I stared at the main door. With a crash, the door was forced open. Grace, why did you call the police on my dad? Drop the lawsuit, right now. Do you hear me? Tiffany stormed in, ranting and raving, scantily clad. Everyone in the company knew she was my cousin, so no one dared to truly stop her. I waved for the security guards to stand down. Mr. Harrison, standing nearby, spoke up. Ms. Tiffany, Mr. Richard has been proven guilty of embezzlement and occupational fraud. We will not be dropping the lawsuit. Tiffany threw herself in front of my chair, shaking my arm, whining like she used to as a child. Grace, we're family, after all. My dad and your mother were siblings. How can you be so heartless as to put her only brother in jail? It's just a small amount of money. I heard you married into the Ethan family, Grace. You can easily make that up. I smiled, gripping her wrist and tightening my hold. Yes, money can be easily made up. But what your father owes me isn't just money. He owes me my parents' lives. Gr. Grace, I don't know what you're talking about. I stood up, twisted one of Tiffany's arms behind her back, pressing her upper body onto my desk. I leaned close to her ear. I already know that car accident was your doing. You like Marcus? You can have him. But why? Why did you have to kill my entire family? I yanked her off the desk and threw her to the floor. Tiffany's arm was cut by the sharp edge of the desk, a gash several inches long, bleeding profusely. I glanced at the door, and Mr. Harrison stepped forward to lock it. My gaze dropped. Tell me, why did you kill my parents? By your own words, my mother was your dad's sister. We grew up together. Why? How would I know? Tiffany mumbled, her eyes darting around, not daring to speak louder. Heh, you know the reason, but you're afraid to say it because you're still hoping I'll drop the lawsuit. If you say it, there's no way I ever will. I took a stack of yellowed papers Mr. Harrison handed me and threw them onto Tiffany. You already knew. Your father was adopted by my grandparents. You wanted that teardrop pink diamond as your dowry, so you told your father to ask my grandmother for it. Your dad thought that as the only son of the Song family, the pink diamond would eventually be his, so he went and demanded it. Then my grandparents told your father he was adopted. They would give him company shares in the future, but the ancestral home and the jewelry were out of the question. Your father probably started plotting how to harm my parents right around then. I stood up and signaled for the bodyguards to drag Tiffany out. Tiffany struggled to her feet, protecting her stomach, her makeup smeared, her voice barely a whisper. Don't touch me, I'll walk myself out. I watched Tiffany's retreating back, which slowly superimposed with a small, childlike figure. But the tiny figure quickly faded away. You can tell Tiffany the real situation with the Miller family and about Marcus's numerous lovers. Tiffany, looking utterly disheveled, got into her car. Mr. Harrison tapped on the window and handed her a document bag. Ms. Tiffany, Ms. Grace specifically instructed me to give these to you personally. Tiffany was too stunned to react at first, then mechanically opened the document bag and scrutinized its contents. After was forced to marry Tiffany, he was beside himself with anger and traveled abroad for a while. While he was living it up overseas, he was cursed out by Mr. William and rushed back. What? Grace's eyes are healed? And she's become the largest shareholder of Grace Incorporated, putting Richard in a detention center to await trial? Mr. William was incensed, looking at his womanizing son. If it hadn't been for this good-for-nothing playing around so much before the marriage, and Grace turning the tables after finding out, they would have been in-laws with Grace Incorporated long ago. Then, with Grace as an orphaned sole heir, Grace Incorporated would have been easily within their grasp. Then I'll divorce Tiffany right away and beg her to take me back. She loves me so much, she'll definitely agree. Mr. William, losing all patience, threw a teacup that barely grazed Marcus's head. Dream on. Grace is already married. That's how she got the shares her parents left her. Do you know who she married? It's Ethan, the feared tycoon from the Ethan family. You'd better start praying Grace doesn't decide to come after our Miller family now. Marcus froze. How could Grace have gotten married so quickly? He thought the wedding video back then was just her way of getting revenge. You settle down. Now that you're married and have a child, settle down and behave. Stop going after Grace. Don't stir up any more pointless trouble. Bang! The main door of the Miller was also violently thrown open. Tiffany, hair disheveled, eyes sharp and fierce, walked in like a vengeful spirit. Tiffany pulled out a stack of photos and slapped them onto Marcus's face. Can't you live a single day without chasing women? I'm running around in Sterling City trying to save my dad, while you're living a life of indulgence abroad. Don't forget, Marcus, the kidnappers and Grace's car accident, your Miller family was involved too. What, now that Grace is moving against my family, you want to distance yourselves? I'm telling you, that's not happening. If you don't help me get my father out, I'll expose all the dirty deeds you've done over the years. Mr. Williams subtly signaled to Marcus. Marcus stepped forward to soothe her. Tiffany, don't worry. How could I abandon my father-in-law? Haven't I rushed back? Marcus took advantage of Tiffany's distraction, twisted her arms forcefully behind her back, and shouted to the servants, quickly, take the young madam to her room to rest. Everyone scrambled in a panic. The document bag in Tiffany's hand fell to the floor, and a cell phone, currently on a video call, slid out of it. On the call screen was Grace's regal and alluring face. Marcus, I advise you to let Tiffany go. After all, she is your wife. Besides, it's too late to lock her up now. Don't worry. On the day of the trial, the prominent families embroiled in the scandal were all present. Having regained her sight, Grace was even more radiant and captivating, her presence even more formidable. Beside her, Ethan looked like a man who doted on his wife to an addictive degree, completely unlike the feared tycoon of legend. The Ensong family members, however, looked glazed-eyed and utterly exhausted. In the defendant's box, Richard's figure was gaunt, and he periodically glanced at his defense attorney. Mr. Harrison produced a stack of evidence documents, his words sharp as a blade. The defendant, in exercising his rights as a Grace Incorporated shareholder, consp. Ired with his son-in-law's Miller to maliciously transfer Grace Incorporated assets and illegally misappropriate vast sums of money. After a fierce rebuttal, the prosecution's chain of evidence was robust, and the judge declared the defendant guilty. Richard slumped in the defendant's box. Realizing he might never get out, Richard desperately yelled, Grace. Marcus was involved in those things too. He was the one who suggested it first. I watched with a cold gaze, saying nothing. Tiffany tugged at Marcus's arm, signaling him to find a way, compassionate release for medical reasons, or something, just get her dad out, no matter what. Marcus allowed her to tug his arm, remaining unmoved, his eyes fixed on Grace. Grace had become even more beautiful. Ethan was clearly annoyed, turning his body to block Marcus's view. I smiled. Jealous again? Ethan and I returned to the Bayview Villa. Listening to most of the day's trial had been somewhat exhausting. Everything was proceeding according to plan. Mr. Harrison sent a message. The family indeed negotiated a suspended sentence. Richard has returned home. I nodded. As for the Miller, you can release the information now. Those women need to put in a bit more effort. In 2 weeks, let's have Marcus die from sexual exertion. Mr. Harrison's expression remained unchanged. Yes. After ending the call with Mr. Harrison, Ethan wrapped his arms around me from behind, his hands exploring lower. What do you think? Mr. Harrison is useful, isn't he? He's the chief of Ethan's legal team. I pressed his hands down and smiled. What, are you jealous, or do you just not want to let go of Mr. Harrison? Of course I'm jealous. Lately, you've spent more time with Mr. Harrison than with me. Ethan whined miserably. Not true. If you count the time we spend sleeping in bed, I still spend the most time with you. Then, Mrs. Ethan, would you mind if we increased that time a little bit? Just a little bit? I teased him. Yes, a tiny bit, but a lot. And so, the two of them began their intimate moments again. The old servant waiting outside to serve late-night snacks flushed red. Youth is truly wonderful, always ready for passion. In this situation, there's no need to deliver snacks, is there? 2 weeks later, Ethan and I went back to that mountain lake. As we were happily enjoying a barbecue in front of the cabin, a bodyguard handed me a cell phone. It was a video call from Mr. Harrison. Ms. Grace, everything has been taken care of. Both the Song family and the Miller family are all settled. Good, you've worked hard. The cell phone turned, bringing Ethan into view. Mr. Ethan, should I continue working for Ms. Grace, or should I return to you? Ethan languidly took a bite of fish. Either is fine. Anyway, from now on, you and Jason will be in charge of things domestically. Mr. Harrison was silent for a few seconds. Thank you for the promotion, Mr. Ethan. I seemed to realize something. You put Mr. Harrison by my side, not to help me, but under the guise of helping me, to monitor me, didn't you? How could that be? Isn't Mr. Harrison's work ability top-notch? Fine, the initial intention doesn't matter, as long as the outcome is good. I gazed at the lake. After the fish jumped, the surface of the water grew calm. Thank you for watching today's story. If you enjoyed this video, please like and share it with your friends. We look forward to hearing your thoughts in the comments section. Feel free to share your opinions, and don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more exciting stories. See you next time.